Hello, I'm Jan Falconer, and welcome to Not-Netflix Natters, a place where stories, family, and everyday life gives us something to think about. Let's begin. Welcome to Not-Netflix Natters, Series 4, Episode, I'll let you guess. The conversation continues. Hi, I'm Jan Falconer. I'm an author, consultant, and a nonna. And this is Not-Netflix Natters. So, here we are. This is supposedly episode 8 and the end of the 4th series of Not-Netflix Natters. Or is it? Because when I started Not-Netflix Natters, I had a very good, a perfectly sensible numbering system. Series 1 had episodes 1 to 8. Series 2 had episodes 1 to 8, and so on and so forth. I thought that this was straightforward. Then I realised I was making rather a lot of these. So guess what? I've changed the numbering system. But I asked myself, is the problem solved? Well, really, I don't think it is. But does it matter? No. So, if you pick up any of these episodes, either my articles or YouTube videos, you'll always be able to see which series it belongs to, and every series has its own theme. You certainly won't have to start at the very beginning and work your way through dutifully through the lot. So, you can come in wherever you like. I will even do some clippity clips for you, so you don't have to wade through all my longer articles or longer videos. Yes, I thought it was better. Do you? And maybe it's rather appropriate that Not-Netflix Natters itself has changed while I've been making this series about navigating an ever-changing world. This is because things do change. Technology, schools, families, well, everything changes. And when the conversation we're having is about change, well, I have to change. Thank goodness. What did I pick up along the way? When I started this series, there was a question sitting underneath it. How can we help children navigate a future when none of us knows exactly what that future is going to look like? Nearly 8 episodes later, I still don't know. That's so reassuring, isn't it? But I've become a little more comfortable with not knowing. We've covered quite a lot of ground along the way as well, and I've gathered quite a collection of ideas. Some have come from research, conversation, some from my own experiences, and quite a few from getting things wrong and having another go along the way. I am not expecting anyone to agree with them. In fact, I'd rather be surprised if you did. But I would like readers, viewers and listeners just to think of them as a smorgasbord. Take what appeals to you, leave what you don't, and if you fancy something completely different, that's fine too. I want to share with you, though, one of the things I've appreciated. This is something I've returned to several times. Every child is unique. They have their own strengths, interests, quirks, and way of seeing the world. And for me, that means different children may have and need different things. It also means different families may make different choices, and 2 families can make completely different choices and decisions while both wanting the very best for their children. And that's okay. We've also talked a lot, yes, quite a lot, about technology. I've come back again and again to something very simple. In my view, technology is just a tool. Yes, a tool. It's like a hammer, a cake mixer, or like money. It's a tool, and nothing more and nothing less. The issue for me is how I treat and what I choose to do with it. This is what really matters to me. A hammer can help build something. A cake mixer can produce something absolutely yummity scrummity. Either can also make a dreadful mess if we don't know what we are doing. I try to remember that the tool doesn't make the choice. That's really important. The choice is mine. I make the choice. And somewhere amongst all these tools, I think it's perfectly okay to retain ownership of my own thinking and my own voice. We can use technology if we choose. We can ask for help. I do. Listen to other people's ideas, change our minds. In this series, actually, across Not-Netflix Natters as a whole, you have seen me do this a lot. But my thinking and my voice, just like yours, can still belong to me. That is the thing that stays. And then there are the stories, books, films, television, music, singing, reading, watching something together. Do you know one thing that I really appreciated while exploring all of this is the thought that shared experiences have the opportunity of becoming shared memories. Not all of those experiences, though, will become memories, but some will. And sometimes what we remember isn't really the book, the film, or the program at all. We might remember the person sitting next to us, or a ridiculous character's voice, the family joke that nobody else would understand, or where we were when something happened. The technology might provide the experience, but the memory belongs to us. And then we got to learning. I decided I don't need to be the Oracle of Delphi. That's far too large a responsibility. Children don't need me to know everything. Woohoo! It's perfectly okay for me to say, I don't know, and perhaps follow it with, let's find out. Because one of the things we discovered was that every day can be a school day, not just for children, but for me, for us. There isn't an age when curiosity has to stop. What makes you say that? Then we arrive to one of my favourite questions. Yes. What makes you say that? I love that question. It doesn't have to mean you're wrong and I'm waiting for you to stop talking so I can tell you why. It can simply mean I'm interested. Can you tell me more? What do you know about that? What have you seen? What have you experienced? And if you need to, there's another little phrase I've become rather fond of. Let's check. Get the receipts. This is a clever code in my mind for evidence. I've even developed my own little rule. Get the receipts before you repeat. But receipts aren't a weapon. Oh no. As I've said before, receipts are evidence. They're facts. They're information that can help us understand something better. And sometimes the receipts might prove that the other person was right. Even worse, they might prove that I was wrong. Eek! And I've survived that before. Being wrong isn't the end of the world. I can change my mind whenever I learn something new. In fact, maybe that's part of the point. Rabbit holes. There is an awful lot going on in the world. There is an awful lot being said about what is going on in the world too. Some of it is very important. Some of it is interesting, and some of it is a flipping load of nonsense, and some of it can send us disappearing down rabbit holes that we really didn't need to visit. I enjoy rabbit holes. They're fine. If you enjoy rabbit holes, that's fine. Off you go and enjoy your rabbit hole. But me, I will avoid a rabbit hole like the plague. Although I have to admit, it can be occasionally quite delicious watching the rabbits disappearing down them. I find I'd rather look at what actually is in front of me. What's happened with the child in front of me? What am I seeing rather than guessing, or, goodness forbid, hallucinating? I like to know. What does that evidence tell me? What happens if I ask the child? And if I'm still curious, where are the receipts? That's my preference. Yours can be completely different, and that's okay too. Your choice, your smorgasbord. So, after all these natters, what am I taking with me? This is what I try to do. Firstly, appreciate each child as a unique person with their own strengths, interests, quirks, and way of seeing the world. I try to remember that technology is a tool, just like a hammer, a cake mixer, or money, and that what matters to me is how I choose to use it, how I retain ownership to my own thinking and my voice, even when I use tools or ask other people for help. I try to recognize that a shared experience has the opportunity to become a shared memory. And I try to admit when I don't know something. When curiosity gets the better of me, let's say, let's find out. Remember that every day can be a school day for adults as well as children. And ask, what makes you say that? When I genuinely want to understand, check the evidence and get my receipts before I repeat something. I try to remember that receipts are evidence rather than weapons, and admit when I've got something wrong. I try to leave a little room for other people to see things differently, and I appreciate that curiosity, whether it's mine or a child's, can be an investment in the future. That's quite a smorgasbord, and I certainly don't manage all of it all of the time. Nor do I think anyone else has to either. These are simply some of the things I've picked up during this particular Not-Netflix Natters adventure. You might find something useful amongst them. You might disagree with half of them. I certainly hope so, and I hope you comment about it. That's okay with me. You may already have a much better way of doing something. That is excellent. Please share with all of us your tips and your tricks, because one of the things I've appreciated most while making this series is that there doesn't have to be one answer. We can all leave a little room for ourselves and for other people. Room to ask questions, room to make different choices, room to get something wrong. I always do. And room to change our minds, and room to discover something we didn't know yesterday. For me, that's learning. And I hope I never finish doing it. So, what happens next? So this is Series 4. Auf Wiedersehen, arrivederci. We've talked about children, families, technology, stories, learning, curiosity, evidence, thinking, questions, and quite a few other things along the way. We've even had some chair samba. Olé! That is perfectly acceptable. And now I've changed numbering system, started making clippity clips, and generally interfered with a perfectly sensible system I began with, which means Not-Netflix Natters is changing too. This is good. A change is as good as a rest, because I don't really want to finish this series with a conclusion. No. I much better finish it with a question. Is this the end of series 4 or the beginning of another adventure? Well, you get to choose. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, visit my website, and explore the books. Until next time, take care.